want to welcome you again, especially to our series. This is day 4, and I'm sure the Lord is speaking to you as you follow along. We are raising a generation of young people who will develop a passion for the pursuit of excellence, understanding the times and making adequate preparations for Christ's imminent return. A lot is going on around here which might interest you. This particular series runs for 10 days. I'll be glad if you hit the subscribe button below and the notification sign to get notified on our next presentation. Again, I say this is day number 4 and our topic is Relentless. On this series, our key letter for today's discussion is R, and our key model is Ruth. Our key spiritual lessons: rest amidst the heat of turbulence. It's a positive way of keeping a healthy emotional strength. By way of a summary statement, God redeems those who are faithful in spite of their predicaments. He mends the brokenhearted in due season. Hello, somebody. You see, the Lord has never promised a hitch-free ride. He simply says, I'll be with you. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 2 says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you go through the rivers, I will not run you over. When you walk through the fire, you shall not get burned, and the flames will never lit you up. When Satan's attack is directed at you, everything around you starts to go wrong. Your faith is besieged by doubt and your character is tested to the limit. One thing is bound to be, it doesn't last long. Ruth, whose name means friendship, is a woman of challenge, loyalty, character, audacity, faith, and God's blessings. She was of the land of Moab. She had a very difficult time in life. She was the newly widowed daughter-in-law of Naomi, who was also experiencing great sadness at the loss of her husband and 2 sons. The Bible gives a glimpse of their lives, and through it we see amazing virtues of faith, submission, hard work, gratitude, and humility. At last, the hand of God redeems those who are faithful in spite of their circumstances and backgrounds. He grants healing also to the brokenhearted. We have 7 lessons we can learn from Ruth. Number 1, Ruth had a history. Ruth was a Moabitess with a strong background in the worship of idols. She got married to Naomi's son. She learned about the true God, the God of Israel. Ruth and her sister-in-law Orpah mysteriously lost their husbands. Life became rough and tough. In those days, a brother would marry a widow and continue the family line from where his brother stopped. But in this case, both brothers were dead. So you were at the mercy of others to survive. On the news headlines, God had provided relief for his people from the famine in Israel. So in Ruth chapter 1 verse 6, we read that Naomi desired to return to her homeland in Judah. Unsure about the future, she canceled her in-laws to go back to their people. But for Ruth, that was not an option. I'm going with you, whatever, whenever, wherever, and however. You may have a bad history. If that history is surrendered to Jesus, it turns into his own story, leading for sure to something great. We may have had bad choices, bad encounters, bad experiences, but Jesus fixes everything altogether. You just have to make another choice. This time, an intentional choice for the right, and a new history will be made. Always remember this: your past is not what the future holds. Number 2, Ruth did not look back. She left completely. 2 different cultures that didn't match Ruth lived all her life in Moab, a nation in a prolonged face-off with the Israelites. To make things worse, her Israeli husband is dead. Now she lives with her widowed, mother-in-law. She also lost her husband without a child. Some believe she may have been barren. Well, Ruth embarked on her journey to Israel for the very first time. She had a lot of reasons to not leave Moab, but she left with Naomi anyways. Ruth did not allow her past to hold her back, her past to keep her, just like we read in Philippians chapter 3 verse 13 that says, I have not achieved it, but I focus on the one thing, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. Child of God, learn to leave the past in the past. The future is brighter than your current standpoint. Free your mind. Number 3, Ruth is full of faith. For a young believer she was, Ruth's faith was extraordinary and remarkable. She knew there was a life ahead of her. The understanding of her newfound faith revealed a purpose for her ahead. The faith to believe that God was who He said He was. Believing that God will provide for her and Naomi come what may. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 defines faith as the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things that are not seen. You might not be able to see what God is doing, but trust that He is moving. He is at your case. From the book Education, page 256, faith is needed in the smaller no less than in the greater affairs of life. In all our daily interests and occupations, the sustaining strength of God becomes real to us through an abiding trust in Him. The future may not be known, but as we put our trust in the one that knows tomorrow, we can be rest assured that He will take us there in safety. Number 4, Ruth made a choice. Hello friends, life is all about choices and consequences. An old cliche says, you cannot eat your cake and have it. It is true. On the other hand, you can find a way to make yourself another cake, so you choose whether to eat it or to just have it. Ruth made a choice and backed it up with action. She said, as she declares, entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Ultimately, friends, your God, my God. Ruth chose to stay with a woman who was hurting and alone. She chose to follow after the one true God rather than go back to Moab's idols and the worship of idols. This is a breaking point moment where all that matters is everything that matters. She was both physically and spiritually responsible for her life and everything that follows from that moment. The feeble-mindedness of our times, of our generation, has barred the mind of our youth to stand for what is true and long-lasting. You can pick courage and take a stand that men may see and know you for what you choose to defend. Number 5, Ruth valued character. Upon arrival in Bethlehem, it was a time of the barley harvest. She found out about a distant family relative named Boaz. Guided by Naomi, Ruth requested that she was allowed to go glean from his field. In God's great wisdom, long before Ruth's time, He had already established a provision for those who were poor and in great need. In Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 19, you read as God commanded the people of Israel that they should not gather every bit of food out of the field, because they have to leave some for the stranger or the fatherless or the widow. Contrary to the perception that God will always throw out blessings from the ceiling, God's provision required a person to still labor to receive the blessings allotted to him or her. Hard work and sacrifice will impress upon favor in the time of need. This is a missing flavor of our time. Every young person looks out for quicker ways of making money. Some of our young people have been lured to invest their lives and resources in prostitution, gambling, betting, bet Naija, bet anything, and Ponzi schemes. By this, the dignity of labor is crowned with disrespect and erratic display of ill-gotten wealth that leads young people out of control. Her careful diligence and humility brought her favor with Boaz. Character is who you are when nobody is watching. Ruth had no idea her story will be read by millions today about her incredible character in her little place of obscurity. Number 6, Ruth believes redemption. Her life is a beautiful picture of God's miraculous intervention in the lives of his children. Boaz and Ruth got married and had a son named Obed. Ruth, the widowed woman from Moab, became the grandmother of Jesse and the great-grandmother of King David, the king of Israel. The choices we make, especially as they turn us towards God, can impact many generations. And so we have to be careful. Ruth received blessings from God because of each choices that she made in the face of conflict and difficulty and trials. Number 7, Ruth leaves a legacy. Perhaps one of the best parts of her story is the legacy God established through her. God brought her and Boaz together and they conceived a child. That child would be the lineage of Jesus, the Savior of the world. Ruth, a Moabite, was made part of the lineage of the Messiah. If you commit your life to God and your calling is firm in Him, there is no limit to what God can do through you and for you and by you. One thing we should add to all that we know is our everyday plan. It has to be footed and founded to leaving behind legacies. Be concerned about your footsteps and the trail you leave in every move that you make, every passing moment. Endeavor to work and put into consideration what you leave behind. That is all that you might be remembered for.